Armor stats are very important when it comes to builds in Destiny 2. So what are the highest possible stat totals? In this video, I'll go over how to achieve maximum stat builds and a few unique ways to go beyond the usual stat limits. Also, stick around to the end of the video for a more practical way to reach 100 in all 6 stats at once. I'm Marshix and I make Destiny 2 guides for solo players. If you enjoyed this video, all I ask for is a like in return. Let's start by finding the highest possible stat totals from each source to see what the true maximum is, then we can figure out which stat spreads you need to search for. First, looking at armor, legendary armor can drop with a stat total anywhere between 48 and 68, and exotic armor can drop up to a total of 71. I have personally only seen 70s, but 71s do exist and they're very rare. Then, for class items, they don't have any stats inherently, but once an armor piece is masterworked, it gains an additional +2 in each stat for an overall +12 per armor piece, including class items. That being said, assuming you have 3 legendary armor pieces, 1 exotic, and a class item, the maximum possible total for only armor is 275 before masterworks, or 335 with everything masterworked. Keep in mind, these are the totals of all stats from only armor pieces. Now, with mods, we can increase this a lot further. The most obvious mods are the general stat mods. These have their own slot on each armor piece and will increase whichever stat you choose by 10 points. So with 5 of these mods, we can increase the total by an additional 50 points. We also have a few other mods that increase specific stats. First is Powerful Friends, which will increase mobility by 20 points if you have another Arc mod equipped. And then we also have Radiant Light to do the same thing, but for strength. And yes, these do activate each other. After all that, we have a total of 425, but it doesn't stop there. Certain fragments inside of subclasses have the ability to raise specific stats. So the more fragment slots available, the more stats you can add. For Titans, the most fragment slots you can have are 4 on Void, 4 on Solar, and 5 on Stasis. Hunter is 4 on Void, 5 on Solar, and 5 on Stasis. And Warlocks can only get up to 4 on all of them. Arc 3.0 doesn't exist yet, but that could very well change this. So currently, the most these can add is 50 total, but spread between different stats, bringing our previous total to 475, or in other words, 475 points divided between these 6 stats. And that's where it stops visually, but it can actually go higher. By this, I mean you won't be able to see the stats on your character, but they will still have the same effects on gameplay. Well, one exotic can raise your stat total even though it's completely invisible on your character. Peacekeepers. If you have an SMG equipped, this will increase your mobility by a massive 50 points. And this will work with something else in just a minute. Sure, this does take your exotic slot and require you to be on a Titan, but you came here for the maximum possible stats, not necessarily the best build. And this will increase the total to 525. The other way to get invisible stats is through origin traits. Land Tank will grant 10 resilience for 5 seconds after each kill, stacking up to 3 times, for a total of 30 resilience. And this perk rolls on any of the weapons from PsyOps Battlegrounds. Things like Peace of Mind and Explosive Personality do a great job of keeping this perk going. Another origin trait that increases stat points is 2 excess on the opulent weapons from Leviathan. Getting a kill with one of these weapons while your super is full will raise your discipline and strength by 20 points each. So you could use this on the Callus mini tool to get the benefits of both Peacekeepers and 2 excess. Then on top of that, you could run a kinetic or heavy weapon with Land Tank to also get more resilience. So factoring in everything we've discussed so far, the highest total possible, assuming you have perfect armor, every mod equipped, Peacekeepers, plus 50 from your subclass, Callus mini tool, and a weapon with Land Tank, the total is 595. So if you had the perfect stat spread, you would theoretically be able to get 100s in 5 separate stats and 95 in the final stat. Not all of them are visible though. But I did promise a more practical way to get 100s in all 6 stats. So what did I mean by that? Well, there's a mod that instantly raises your intellect to 100. But first, if you enjoy this video, leave a like down below. This mod is Font of Wisdom. After picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass, you get maxed out intellect for 30 seconds. Using Bubble as an example, even if you have only tier 1 intellect, your super recharge will go from 8 minutes and 51 seconds to 5 minutes and 19 seconds, which means you can basically ignore this stat entirely in PvE when creating a build, as long as you utilize elemental wells. That being said, what does a practical 6-stat build look like? Long story short, these are the visible stats you want to aim for. By that, I mean the stats you can see on your character screen, whether it be from armor, mods, or subclass fragments. If you add all of these together, we get a total of 398 points of the 475 maximum visible stats. So that tells us this is possible if you manage to get armor that fits that spread. We even have some points left over. From here, Peacekeepers will add 50 to Mobility, Land Tank will add 30 to Resilience, to Excess will raise Discipline by 20, and the same thing for Strength. Then, as mentioned before, picking up an Elemental Well with Font of Wisdom will bring your Intellect to 100, making this the only build that can achieve tier 60, aka 100s in all 6 stats at once. So, do I recommend you grind for a maximum stat build? No. It takes a good bit of setup just for slightly faster ability cooldowns, but I think it's really interesting that this is even possible to create. What you should do instead is watch this video and see how I achieved 4 legit 100 stats in a single build completely solo. Thanks for watching, I'm Marshix, and I'll see you next time.